One of the new and somewhat controversial additions in patch 14.1 is the new portal Crab Rave. There is a pretty good chance that you've seen a few clips of streamers already where they lost to the crab in stage 5, which in some cases lost them the game or even a tournament.
What the?
So does this mean that Riot should nerf Crab Rave? Truth to be told, I don't really think so. Whether or not something should get nerfed somewhat depends on the tools that you have available to deal with the problem. In this video, I will share all of my findings with you and hopefully give you an idea on how to survive Crab Rave in the future. Let's take everything step by step. If Crab Rave gets selected as your portal, you will have a free PvE round until stage 5. The Scuttle crabs before will not retaliate at all, they are simply chilling. However, starting with stage 5-7, you will encounter the monster crab. It has a total of 20,000 HP, and if that's not enough, it also has 300 armor and 300 MR. When the fight starts, every unit on your board will take damage. This damage can be a bit deceptive because it will ramp up to the point of one-shotting whatever is left of your team. The first thought that might come to your mind when you hear about a high amount of HP and a high amount of defensive stats is to utilize the burn effects from items like Sunfire or Red Buff. Unfortunately, this will only help to an extent. Burn damage against PvE minions is capped out at 100 true damage. The same applies to stronger burn effects from radiant items as well. So in short, applying a burn from any source will deal 100 true damage every second. The Scuttle fight becomes incredibly difficult after around 20 seconds, so in most cases you shouldn't expect more than 2500 true damage. Since the crab has incredibly high defensive stats, items like Ionic Spark, Static Shift, Last Whisper or even Shroud are all useful items, but chances are you're likely running one of them anyways. So how do you actually beat the monster crab? The most important factor for this fight is to have healing. This means items like Bloodthirster, Gunblade or augments like Vampirism. It doesn't matter if you have a 3-star T4 unit with great DPS items on the backline, the unit cannot escape the board-wide damage and gets taken out way too quickly. Outside of healing items, you will need incredibly high DPS, or in other words, sustain damage. 3 units that I want to highlight for this category are Kiana, Ahri and Kane. Let's start with Kiana. In this fight, I have a Kiana 2-star with Infinity Edge and 2 Hand of Justice. She is paired with 1 Akali and 1 Zed to activate both of her traits. Now you might be surprised to hear this, but this setup is in fact enough to defeat the monster crab. The reason for this is Kiana's enhanced ability against enemies that don't have any items. The Scuttle is considered itemless from her perspective, which is why every single cast can deal over 1500 true damage. In combination with Omnivamp, this will effectively heal Kiana back to full with every cast. In a good scenario, she gets into a rhythm where the damage from the crab grants her full mana and this cycle gets repeated until the Scuttle is taken out. In a bad scenario, she ends up taking damage while being mana locked, and this can potentially ruin everything if the Scuttle ramped up enough to kill her in the following wave. The next unit I want to highlight is Kane. The beauty about Kane in this fight is that he simply won't stop spinning, because he is only hitting a single target over and over again. In this fight I have 2 Kanes, both with Gunblade and strong AP items. It turns out this setup is also strong enough to take out the monster crab. Now you might not have the setup to run 2 Kanes with AP items, but if you're heading towards stage 5-7, then you should consider picking him up. You don't need to activate any traits for him, so he fits into every comp, and you just have to give him some sustain and some damage items, and he will considerably increase your chances of beating the monster crab. For the last unit, I want to talk about Ahri, because from all of the non-legendary units, she is arguably the strongest single target DPS that you have available. I tested some KDA boards against the Scuttle, and some fights got somewhat close, but I was always lacking a little bit of damage. Outside of Ahri, most of the KDA units looked rather useless and didn't really provide anything to the fight. The best solution to fix this problem is to simply run a second Ahri, preferably with a sustain item as well. A single Ahri 1-star will likely help more with the fight than the rest of your units. units. For the second Ahri, you also don't have to worry about items like blue buff, since similar to the Kiana setup, she will gain most of her mana from damage taken. So as long as she can heal herself back up, you should be fine. You can also try putting Ahri in the front line to minimize cast time, since there is no real benefit to put Ahri in the backline for this fight. So to summarize, in most cases, you want 2 strong DPS units with sustain if you want to have a chance to survive the Crab Rave. You will have to accept the fact that some comps like True Damage or Disco will simply have an easier time compared to a pentakill setup because they have the tools available to face this challenge head on. What is your experience with Crab Rave so far? Which comps or units do you personally prefer for this portal? Let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something and see you next time.